In recent months, a toxic culture of racism, misogyny and homophobia have been revealed within the ranks of the Metropolitan Police. But how far does this culture extend to forces across the country? Tonight, we can reveal serious concerns about the conduct of some officers here in the West Midlands, including a member of its elite firearms unit who's the subject of a criminal investigation. We understand the allegations involve sexual misconduct. The force has a new chief constable. He took over here just 3 months ago. Craig Guilford happens to also be the National Police Chief's lead on standards and ethics. But tonight, there are serious questions about standards and ethics within his own force.
Individuals involved in drug supply.
An armed unit responding to reports of a gun on the streets of Birmingham. When they spot the suspect, they swoop.
Get on the floor! Okay, he's on the floor now, no problems.
This is the second largest police force in England. Its prestigious firearms team, charged with protecting a population of nearly 3 million people. But Channel 4 News can reveal that one of the unit's own specialist officers is the subject of a criminal investigation. We've learnt that the firearms officer is being investigated over claims about his behaviour at a Christmas party. It's alleged that he had sex with 2 separate women in a toilet and filmed it without their knowledge. He then shared the footage on social media with members of his team. West Midlands Police told us that the officer has been removed from public-facing duties while the investigation continues.
My concerns about West Midlands Police and police forces across the country actually is on what is the standard for vetting, disciplinary, suspension in these instances. Because for too long in West Midlands Police, as well as in pretty much every police force in the country, we have seen cases where officers accused either through the criminal process and or the employment processes of the police have, been put onto light duties, for example. It's just not appropriate.
Our investigation comes at a time when the culture within policing is under scrutiny as never before. The Metropolitan Police has faced a series of scandals, including the murder of Sarah Everard by one of its own officers. Scandals which have revealed a toxic culture of misogyny, racism and homophobia. A number of high-profile cases expose the use of social media groups by police officers to share racist and sexist views. We can now report that the West Midlands force is broadening an internal investigation into similar accusations amongst its ranks, again centred around its elite firearms unit. We can reveal that 10 officers and members of staff are under investigation for allegedly sharing offensive and derogatory material on social media. There are also accusations of discrimination and of female officers being treated unfairly. Some of the accused have been removed from frontline firearms duties while the inquiry continues.
The mindset of people once they put those uniforms on, what are they really thinking of?
Desmond Jadu has campaigned on numerous cases involving West Midlands officers and allegations of discrimination. What message does it send to Birmingham's diverse communities when we hear that police officers are exchanging these types of offensive messages?
Well, many don't have confidence in the police, and that's just used as an example to add fuel to the fire. You may be smiling at me now, but as soon as you turn your back around, you call me a rude name or, horrible thoughts go through your mind.
And the fact that it's firearms officers allegedly involved?
That is of concern. The fact that these are members of the firearms unit, it does raise that concern that where are they mentally to be carrying a gun?
The West Midlands force told us there's no place in policing for misogynistic, discriminatory or disrespectful behaviour, and they're working hard to ensure predatory individuals are not only rooted out of the force, but that vetting is strengthened to ensure that they cannot join the police in the first place.
Darshana Soni with that exclusive report. Earlier, I spoke to Dame Vera Baird, the former Victims Commissioner for England and Wales, who previously served as Police and Crime Commissioner for Northumbria. I began by asking how prevalent these kinds of misogynistic and racist attitudes were.
What I think we've learned very strongly in the last few months largely around the Met, but not exclusively so, is that these attitudes don't develop in a vacuum and are, where they would be actively discouraged. I think we've seen surrounding both of the major criminals in the Met, but many, many others, whole cultural problems about sexuality in particular. And this, has a bit of an inevitability about that, really. An individual in something like the police, who sensed an attitude that would be very opposed to any kind of sexual abuse or exploitation would be much, much likelier not to have put himself in a position of being under criminal investigation.
We've spent a lot of time talking about culture within the police, and tonight the allegations, and they are allegations, concern officers within the firearms unit in the West Midlands. Wayne Cousins and David Carrick were both specialist firearms officers. How much more carefully should officers joining those kind of units be vetted?
I think that, there are very serious problems about vetting. There have been so many errors made by so many forces that have culminated in men who should never have been in the force in the first place, being looked at in exactly this way, that it seems to me it is no longer at all appropriate that the police should carry out their own vetting. It should be done, in my view, with the intervention of some outside people. I must say the other thing that occurred to me about around the story that Channel 4 has unearthed today is that there is some sense, I believe, that one or more of the relevant officers under investigation has been removed from public-facing duties, as if that was a recognition of the gravity of the position, which it fundamentally isn't. People who are alleged to have been abusive, exploitative, especially in a criminal way, but at all to women, ought not to be carrying a police warrant card about. It has little to do with being on duty. We saw what Cousins, we saw what Carrick, both of them off duty, did with their police warrant cards. I hope that the police force and the chief constable in particular appreciate that they are holding out anybody who is under investigation for this kind of behaviour by leaving them with a warrant card, the notion that this is a trustworthy and reliable police officer who the public should work with. It has very little to do with taking that person off public duties.
These are only allegations at this stage. Isn't there a danger of sort of jumping to conclusions if you, as you seem to be suggesting, you remove the warrant card pending the outcome of an investigation?
Well, many people who are in the position of being criminally investigated for sexual abuse and exploitation, for instance, would be on bail, sometimes on strict terms about where they might live. It seems to me that the very least that the police can do is to not leave a person who is under this kind of suspicion in a positive role where he is held out as being a reliable member of a police force.
Dame Vera Baird, thank you very much for joining us.